You've probably seen the news. During Sony's PlayStation Showcase event, Konami announced Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, an honest-to-God, tip-to-top remake of 2004's Metal Gear Solid 3. As a lifelong Metal Gear fanboy, I should be ecstatic. I should be screaming from the rooftops, giving it the whole, "Thank you Konami, when can I pre-order?" However, I'm not, at all, and I'd like to talk about why. For those of you who've seen any of my past videos, you'll know that I'm not too hot on remakes. An immense amount of time, money and effort goes into the likes of the Demon's Souls remake from Bluepoint, or even the Destroy All Humans remakes from THQ. I'd much rather see those resources spent on creating new experiences and propping up new creatives within the likes of Capcom or Konami or Sony or whoever. Additionally, despite looking amazing, a remake is never going to be able to match the original game's creative and technical merit. Destroy All Humans was inherently more impressive in 2005 than its remake could ever be in 2020. The argument that constantly gets put forward is that a remake is somehow required in order for modern audiences to get on board with a franchise. If that modern audience can't play a 10-year-old game without retching, then their tastes are hardly as refined as that argument would suggest. Anyway, I digress. You could argue that Metal Gear Solid is different. The unique and tumultuous way in which the franchise came to an end saw its creator, Hideo Kojima, effectively kicked out of his own house. Konami tried to make one more Metal Gear game after that, failed like no one has failed before, and then put the series to bed. Thanks to its dormancy, you might think that a remake is a great way to kickstart the franchise again. I mean, we're never going to see a new Metal Gear, right? Why not remake the old ones? Well, like any piece of media, there's a certain amount of artistic intent baked into the original version of a game or a movie or a piece of music. When Metal Gear Solid 3 was released in 2004, it leveraged that intent, along with the PS2's technology, to form a game that could only ever have been produced at that time. When we look back at Metal Gear Solid 3, or any other pivotal game from the past, we should relish those aspects instead of turning our noses up at a blurry texture. Metal Gear Solid 3 achieved so much more in terms of innovation, production value, creative intent than Spider-Man 2 will this year. Mark my words on that. Don't let publishers lead you to believe that old games aren't worth playing. They are, and they always will be. Another big floating question mark over this remake's slightly dopey looking head is the very nature of Metal Gear Solid's thematic progression. Hideo Kojima's penchant for philosophical undertones was extrapolated from the franchise's core anti-nuclear message more and more with each successive game. By the time Metal Gear Solid 3 rolled around, we had 2 games of meaty philosophical context to base our expectations on. This comes back to the right game at the right time argument I made previously. Despite its existence as a prequel, you can't just pluck the third entry in a series out of the water, spit polish it and say, hey look, buy this. On top of that, Metal Gear was always a franchise built on pushing the envelope in just about every direction. Remaking one of them isn't exactly in keeping with that ideal. Honestly, I'm having a hard time really figuring out why it's this remake in particular that I'm pinning to the wall with word bullets. I think it's just that Metal Gear has always meant so much to me. It's always existed as this unfettered watermark for creative vision within a very creatively bereft AAA space. The whole fact that we're getting a Metal Gear game without the involvement of Hideo Kojima, remake or otherwise, feels like a callous and shallow exercise in dollar hunting, and totally at odds with the creative purity at the core of Metal Gear Solid. Now look, I'm not going to preach to you and tell you that you shouldn't buy this game or that you should boycott remakes. Buy and play whatever it is that you want. I suppose what I'd like to see is an industry where remakes are seen as non-essential, like they once were. Back during the PS3 and 360's heyday, the HD remake was the hot new ticket. Metal Gear Solid even received this treatment, and by Bluepoint no less. The difference between then and now was that we looked at those remakes and remasters as like fun asides, interesting and complementary ways to revisit old games. Our main focus was still on new experiences. Is that too much to ask for? Evidently so. I'm going to end with a little anecdote that I feel kind of sums up my feelings on this whole remake thing. The original Demon's Souls by From Software was developed in just under 3 years, from concept to completion, like an entire new game genre created in that time. Its remake, released in 2020, took a team that was just about over 4 times as big, 4 years to develop. If that doesn't tell you that there's something criminally wrong with the games that are being made today, I don't know what will. Let me know what you think though. I'm really interested to get a broader community impression of how people are feeling about this remake. I'll catch you in the next one, and I'll see you soon.